everybody. I'm Tom Vasel.
Zee Garcia, what's happening, folks?
Sam Healey.
All right. So, we're here today on a BackTalk, and I got a question about king making and analysis paralysis, but this was a question taking a look at these in a way I hadn't thought about before. We often accuse a game. We'll say this game is really promotes someone being the alpha player. Mm-hmm. This game really promotes analysis paralysis. This game really promotes king making or whatever. And is that the designer's fault or is it the player's fault? Like, can you blame the designer or the publisher of the game for, does that game promote those things? So let's pick one of them. We'll say analysis paralysis. All right, so a game offers you a lot of choices. Someone takes forever to make those choices. Is that a designer's problem or a player problem?
Samuel?
I would...
Well, I like how you tossed it over to you.
Really.
I can go first. I think it's a designer's problem.
Really?
I do. I think the games that give you a lot of choices, the outcomes of those choices, if they are readily apparent, and I can sit there and calculate what option gives me one more point than one other option, why wouldn't I do that? If I'm able to. I think a game system, if the game is complicated enough where that sort of thing could happen, needs to be obscure enough that I can't do it, and so I need to make a choice based on what I have available or based on my gut. If I can sit there and calculate something 1-to-1, then why shouldn't I if I want to win?
Theme.
Enjoyment of other players?
Nope. Neither one of those I think is good enough.
Okay.
I do. I think theme is definitely good enough because if the theme is so immersive that you don't really care if you're choosing the optimal choice, you're just having fun playing in that universe. I don't think. I mean, again, I'm a huge theme kind of person, but I'm also not the person that can see all of those different connections like other people can.
I can't either, okay? Don't get me wrong.
Right.
I agree with you technically that I would just do something. I mean, it's like when we first play a game and it has characters, do I read their stats? No.
Well,
I am picking somebody because their drawing is cool. I'm that guy, okay?
Yeah.
But the fact that someone could sit there and go, okay, if I do this, I get this many points. If I do this, I get one more point than that. So that option's out. If they can't do that, then why shouldn't they? They're trying to win the same as everybody else. But I just can't.
But I guess the problem I'm having with this is using the word problem. It's a designer problem. I don't see that as a negative thing. If I see it as a natural thing. Some games are naturally going to do that over others.
But some games, obviously, I think some games feed that more than other games.
Right, because of the style of game that it is.
Right, and I think taking that same game and obscuring scoring methodology helps that.
With theme.
Okay, so you're saying that perfect information games are problematic.
I think perfect information games with a lot of choices are problematic.
Okay, so
Which is why most abstract games, which are perfect information, no luck, blah, 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 are very simple designs. People still sit there and think a long time. Now imagine a game like any basic abstract game that then had on top of that 14 pieces and they all move differently and they all score differently.
Well, they even have a clock. Most chess games have a clock.
Right. But that's what I mean. So these really basic games with a lot of, very few different choices, but lots of repercussions, still drive people to sit there and go, so you add that to a game that isn't that simple, you're asking for it unless you obscure how that turns into points.
With theme.
I also think that there are...
Yeah, if it's done well.
Right, yeah.
And you can't say, the designer didn't do that job, so I'm going to do it for them. Just ignore how I win. What would I do in this game? No, that's a role-playing game. That's not a board game.
Well, many board games can be played that way, though.
You can play however you want to. You can play it in your head if you want to. It doesn't mean you are playing well.
I'm just having trouble calling it a problem. It's not a problem on the designer's aspect.
I think that matters more for you than other people. I mean, or people who are like that, right? There are players who are like, I don't care what the theme is. I want to play an optimal game here. So this might be a really cool faction, but if they're underpowered, I'm not going to take them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and again, I'm probably going to make somebody angry here, but
That happened already.
I know, right? Those.
As soon as the video started.
You mad, bro? What's up?
Troll face.
But I mean, those kind of people, they have fun doing math problems as well.
Okay, but that's a lot of people who play games, though.
I understand that, but again, I don't know why we have to call it a designer problem, because you're inferring that the designer isn't doing a good job.
Yes.
And I think he's done a remarkable job, even if I don't like that kind of game.
I'm not implying that when I review games and say that. I'm just flat out saying it. I'm not implying, I'm saying the designer did not do a good job. Some games have too much AP in them, analysis paralysis, because of design decisions. For example, if points are so tight, for example, where every single point matters to the core, that's problematic because then you have to think carefully. But if points are more plentiful, then you're not really sure how many points, like he says, how many you're getting at any point in time.
So you're talking about like Steam versus something else, where Steam is like a very tight game, and it's like going to work every day. And
a tight game is not necessarily, I'm not saying that tight games are bad, but a tight game then should have fewer choices so that you don't have to spend forever. But if you have a game with a ton of choices and few points going around and where every decision matters.
It should also be thematic.
Okay, we got that. I think I heard that. Okay, so what about then alpha gaming? This is where, this often comes up in cooperative games.
Now
or quarterbacking, some people call it. That's a very American term. Where one person is telling everybody else what to do.
I don't see. For me, actually, this is the exact opposite of the one we were just talking about. I think the designer doesn't. This is not their fault if it's happening. This is entirely a group dependent thing. This is someone who enjoys telling everybody else what to do with this game, and either they need to back off or everybody else needs to step up and tell them stop doing that. Because it's just bad behavior. It doesn't have anything to do with how this game was put together. I can't think of an example anyway where it is the game's fault.
Well, I'm having trouble seeing a difference between the two.
What do you mean?
Stealing everybody else's time just so that you can figure out the most optimal decision to make at that specific moment in time is, in my opinion, just as bad behavior as taking the time to tell everybody else what they should be doing.
No,
and
one of those is trying to control me. The other one isn't.
In essence, one is. Thank you. I'm looking at your hand. One is controlling other people's time.
Right.
Covertly, I guess you might call it, subtly. The other one is overtly doing it.
I think one of them is controlling other people's actions, not time.
They still have a choice to
Okay,
make.
well, here's the thing, though. I agree with Sam. I think both are equally as bad.
They're the same. In my opinion, they're the same.
But whether they're both equally as bad, we're talking about the game, when it allows for people to be more analysis paralysis, that can be fixed in game. Quarterbacking, there's ways that you can get around it with real time and things like that. But for the most part, that one is best. I think analysis paralysis is best looked at from the game design perspective. I think quarterbacking needs to be more group dependent. You need to tell people,
That's
hey,
what I'm saying.
Back off.
This is based on the people sitting around the table.
But couldn't you also say, guy, you're taking too long. Come on, just play the game. It's the same thing.
Well, no, you can do that.
Yes, but you're also telling that person, hey, stop trying to, figure out how to do well in this game.
And we do that all the time with Jason.
We do.
And other people that act like him.
He doesn't take too long.
I know he doesn't, because he figures everything out like that. But
I get that.
It's the same thing. It's you're still having that confrontation with the person because of how they're acting. So why is one not the designer's fault and one isn't? I mean, one is. I don't understand the difference.
No, I think they're both the player's fault per se to some degree. I'm just saying that I think it's legitimate to say as a criticism of a game, this game lends itself to analysis paralysis. I think you can't say, well, that's just group dependent. There are some games where definitely.
Couldn't you also say this game lends toward alpha players?
No, I can say that, but I don't know that the designer can fix that. The analysis paralysis thing, I think, can be fixed. I don't.
By dumbing down the game.
Well,
I mean, this is why I'm having trouble calling this a designer problem. I think when you design a specific kind of game, it's going to lend towards that. There's nothing you can do about it.
No, but I think there are things you can say, okay, well, maybe I do have too many options here. Here's a good example. Formula D is a racing game. And that can lend itself to analysis paralysis by having the person sit there and count out every space and figure out the best die to use. I don't know if you've ever played a game with people who've done that before.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I have, and it makes the game excruciatingly long.
Yes, it does.
But if you tell the person, hey, you have to pick which die you roll, you can't count any spaces out,
Right.
it is a much faster game. That's a simple rule change. That one is on the designer's head, not on the player's. That's what I'm saying.
Or
the designer can just add that rule to make the game go that much faster.
But I think he has done some of that, though, because you can take a lot of the things out of Formula D, like engine points, and all this other kind of stuff, and it goes a lot faster, too.
Well, no, I'm arguing. I'm just using that one rule as an example to say, hey, when you put rules in the game, instead of saying pick up the whole deck and look through them and choose a card, or I can say draw 3 off the top and choose one.
Right.
The difference there.
Yeah.
How much more strategy does one give you as opposed to slowing the game down?
True.
So the last one, kingmaking, where one person who is not winning or can't win or whatever decides who the winner will be. And I'm not going into all kind of nuances of when it's right or wrong. We'll talk about that in another video. You wait, because it's coming.
I don't think there are nuances. It's wrong.
Okay, but we'll get to that. But if
I think this is completely a player problem.
Really?
Yes.
That's funny. This is actually the one I think is the most a designer problem.
What? Okay. I think
How?
I know where you're going with that in a sense. Okay, no, I understand. It's wrong to just throw a game to someone. And Zee would agree with that, right?
Exactly what kingmaking is.
But there are some games where they put you in a position where you have to basically pick who the winner is based on your action at the end of the game.
Like what?
I need to basically do some sort of action, and it's going to affect you negatively.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I need context. What is a game that does this?
Maybe you know one, because I'm blanked.
I don't know, but it's definitely happened where I'm sitting at a game, it's the last round, I have one more choice, I know I can't win, and I know if I go here, then you have this open spot, which means you take the game, or if I go here and you can't go there, then you take that spot and you win the game. It's never happened to you?
I don't know. I always go into a game with the ideology that I'm never going to help the person who is in first place win consciously. I'm never going to make that decision where I know this is going to help this person win, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do whatever is best for me.
That's
in
fine,
every single situation.
There is no best choice for you.
That's a perfect storm, though. You can't call that a designer problem.
Sure, I can.
No,
yes,
I don't think
I just
so.
did.
Well,
a designer problem.
You can do it and be wrong.
No.
Yes.
But I don't know.
That's a perfect storm situation where you say.
I think it's
no, but I mean,
at least 50
the whole
times.
thing though is like, okay, 50 times over how many years and how many games? Come on, this is a perfect storm situation where you have no other choice but to do something that's going to help somebody else win. That's a perfect storm situation.
And you think it's a problem with the players?
You simply don't choose the thing that's going to help that person win.
No, sometimes you're like put in that position though. You have
we're
to
not
do something.
saying like go for it, like try to make someone
I think you're
win.
making a mountain out of a molehill because
Possibly.
it's not, more often than not, kingmaking is a guy just being a dork. What about Mission Red Planet, Derek?
Okay, so at the end of the game, your ship's going off, and you can pick where it's going to go, and you
Correct.
like 2 guys, and you can't take control of any spot on the planet.
So you send it to some nether region that doesn't matter. Come on. That's
Or-
an easy decision.
Or
Maybe.
you send it to the place that gives you the most points. But in
Exactly.
doing so, you decide who wins, and that's
No. I had no decision in who won. I was doing what was best for myself.
Okay.
If they position themselves to win that way, that's not kingmaking. That's good play on their part.
and I don't disagree with that.
Okay.
In fact, I was actually surprised that you were so strong on this being the game's problem. I don't often see that the game is his problem. Sometimes it happens. I think it happens a lot more often than not. But
some
sometimes that's
games
just,
are more prone to having it happen.
yeah, I guess I'm just having a hard time coming up with one where it does. I know definitely it's happened in situations. My mind has gone blank. I can't think of any. I'm sure there's 60 examples.
I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I'm just saying that it would have to be a perfect storm situation for it to happen.
Again, this is something that can be fixed with game design, like keeping points hidden by the end of the game. And then I don't know if I'm picking the winner. Okay? These are things that the designer can do to keep me from realizing on my very last action, oh shoot, I'm about to pick the winner.
You're criticizing like 90% of games right now?
No, I don't think so.
Very few games don't have some kind of hidden scoring.
But
It's just a good idea.
I would say most games have points that are just out there.
Well, yeah.
I'll give you an example. Okay?
If you wanted
this is not
to,
a kingmaker thing.
You
Just
could,
an example.
if you wanted to, you could keep track of everybody's points on a piece of
Nope, not always. Not if they drop one
I'm
card.
not saying
kidding?
always.
No
I'm
one- if
saying
anyone does
there
that,
are
I'm not
many
playing with that
games.
person.
I'm just saying there are many games out there where you can keep track of points and you know, generally speaking, within a few points, what everybody has.
No, that's fine. I'm saying when a game hides scoring, some part of scoring, from the players.
Like a secret card or something like that.
Yeah, that's
something
good
Mission Red
for,
Planet has. Yeah.
That's good for speeding up the game because then you don't sit there and wait to figure out, if I do this, I get this many points, which puts me above so-and-so. So that helps with analysis paralysis, and it helps with possible king-making opportunities, I'm not saying this game, one time there was a king-making thing or option, so the game's broken. I'm just saying there are things the designer can do to prevent that moment from being apparent. I'm sure I've picked the winner in many games. I just didn't know it. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I want. I just don't want to see that I'm doing it.
Okay, so you'd be the guy that if the box showed up at your house, you'd push the button?
I don't know what that means.
You've never seen The Box, the movie? Where
No.
the guy says,
No, 'cause
if
you
you
know
push
that
this
kills
button,
someone.
and the button's going to kill somebody, you just don't know who or where. So you'd be the guy that pushes that button.
No, that's
don't think-
killing someone.
No, I'm just saying, it's similar.
not see
it's
that
similar.
correlation at
It's
all.
similar.
That's a stretch. But
right.
anyway, you understand what I'm saying? Like, it hides. You can hide
I
who
really
you're picking.
I really think this is what we're talking about, and we're making it like it's this.
Well,
This is not a big problem, and I think, I don't know, it's king making to me is a decision that the player makes. Whether or not the game contrived itself on this one play, come on, that's
it's the player's fault.
well, no, I'm saying it's a perfect storm. There's nothing the player could have done about it. More often than not.
Right, so you agree with me. It's something the
No,
designer could have done about it.
I am not. I'm saying it is a player's decision. More often than not, it's a player problem, not a designer problem.
Well, this is what I think, folks. I think that with all three of these things, Kingmaker, Analysis Paralysis, and Alpha Gaming, I think that the designer really needs to take them into account.
Yeah.
You really need to think about how all three of those can come into play in your game. Yeah, you can't control players, and there's annoying, really big problems out there. But you know what? If you make a game and it leaves a gaping hole in one of those, I'm going to call it out, and I'm going to blame the designer.
Okay, gaping hole, yes.
Well, I'm
Gaping hole, yes. Little pinhole, no.
But I'm saying that I've called out many games for being analysis paralysis prone. I very rarely call them out for king making because it can happen. And I'll mention alpha gaming, but I usually mention that in regards to, hey, that's group dependent.
Right.
But you know that these things exist. What are clever ways you can think around them? Like, for example, the Space Marine card game. I remember that one person would draw a card and they had to make a decision without showing anyone else the card. That was a nice way to sidestep alpha gaming.
Right.
And you mentioned ways to sidestep, analysis paralysis. I like things like that, and that's my encouragement. So, yes, a lot of it's the group's fault, but in my opinion, some of it is the designer. That make a game that sidesteps problems if you
Just
possibly
be aware,
can.
though, those are possible pitfalls, and keep them in mind when you are making the game. Same thing you would do with like color blindness. It's something to think about. With your design, these things are something to think about.
Yep. I agree with that. You do need to put thought into it during the design process. But at the end of the day,
Theme.
theme,
Yeah, baby.
Theme will cover a multitude of sin, and players, you got to play the game the way it was supposed to be played. Don't min-max. Min-maxing is stupid.
All right. Well, until next time, I'm Tom Vasel.
Zee Garcia, thanks everybody.
Sam Healey, see you on the flip side.